Hi.
Hi, what's your name?
Noreen Green Zimmer.
Noreen Green Zimmer. So you grew up in Detroit?
I grew up in Detroit. I was born in 1934. I remember my parents working. I remember my father working. And I remember my father and mother not working.
What did they do?
The greatest thing that happened, I think, in my 82 years was the atomic bomb, living through that scare. But there have been many innovations, and also the cure for polio. That was a very big deal. Involved in lots of causes, all liberal. Probably one of the best memories I have is marching down Woodward Avenue with Martin Luther King. I wasn't standing at his side, I was back in the line, but I was marching. When Violet Liuzzo and those two young men were killed when they went down to try and register voters, I decided that being an activist as well as a supporter of the cause would have more influence. And so I really took some very specific roles so that when he came down here, I could be as part of the march. And it was just so beautiful to see everyone come together.
What did you do?
Well, there were several things which proved to me that activism works, by the way. Vietnam, I was definitely on the side of Jane Fonda. I was totally prepared to move with my son and my daughter should he be drafted, because I didn't bring children into the world to die for this country. I brought them into the world to live for this country. I marched for Vietnam as well. I felt terrible about the boys that were serving there, only because I felt they shouldn't have been there. That was not our war, it wasn't a declared war, and I felt strongly enough about it to be an active participant in anything that would show citizens a different side of patriotism.
Okay, so tell me about what you did in the 1960s. What was your role? You talked about roles that you had. What were your roles?
In the 60s, well, in the 60s I already had one child and was expecting another, because generationally getting married young was the mode. And so I was limited to some degree, only because of tasks in child care. But most people moved out of the neighborhood that I lived in Detroit, the Northwest area, as the area began to integrate. And even our temple at that time bought property in the suburbs. I remember them calling me and saying, "We're moving to the suburbs, will you continue as a congregant?" I said, "Will you be closer to God?" And I did not continue as a congregant because I wanted to stay in the city. And, I'd had and one day I walked out, it was less than a year living there, I walked out and our mailbox had been kicked over and there was a sign, a very nasty sign, because we had black people coming to the house. So I put the house up for sale and we moved back to the city. So that was my intolerance was intolerance.